Hello and welcome to level 57 of the Thoughts and Players podcast, the gaming podcast with bold takes and no strings attached. I am Jeremy, here with my two combatants. PvP edition, I have David.
What up?
And I have Corey.
What's up, players?
What is up, players? What's up, thinkers and players?
I like that.
Yeah.
We're the thinkers, they're the players. That's
Matter of
right.
fact,
That's what we've always been going for, right?
But if you actually want to be a thinker or a player, that is two of our three tiers for our Patreon.
What?
There's the first tier is the thinker, the second tier is the player, and the third tier, all around slayer. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah, buddy. That's a good
Way to work that in the first 30 seconds.
Way to work
Patreon, baby.
There we go. Shout out to Halo, RIP. So yeah, we are here for a PvP edition of the level. If you guys aren't familiar with it, 5 topics. The guys will debate each other on which one they're going to win, which one make the best points on that topic. Fellas, are you ready to go?
Yes.
Never.
Alrighty. Well, let's get into topic number 1. You know, I was thinking about game consoles. There was some news that came out about the consoles that I'll elaborate further on as we go into the next topic. But for this topic, I was curious. We've had tons of games, tons of consoles launch over the years. So guys, which console had the best launch title?
David, you can take it.
You want me to take it? Okay.
All right, David's up.
So what I'm thinking I'm going to go with is the Xbox.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes. Because
Interesting.
one of the ones
Which title on the Xbox? That's the question.
The Halo Combat Evolved.
Oldie goodie.
We know that Halo started off really strong and it's kind of dipped now. But in order for a new player in town to come in and kind of like make its own room in the industry, you have to have a good launch. Now, I know PlayStation did. It had Ridge Racer, and no one even remembers that game anymore. Everyone still knows Halo because they still make Halo. It might not be good, but they still do. But Halo, they took over. Everyone is Xbox this, Xbox that. It sold millions of copies. And Halo 2 came out, Halo 3 on the 360.
Right.
Sales were good. The launch was good. I mean, what else more do you need?
It was a launch title that you're saying started a legacy.
Correct.
But don't put words in his mouth, Jeremy. Let him say it.
Well, I mean, I'm saying that seems to be what he's saying.
You can say it slayed the sales.
I'm going to give you 3 points for that. I like
3 points. Holy
I like
moly.
the wordplay. You brought up the fact that it was a new kid on the block and it punched way above its weight. People didn't give Microsoft Xbox a lot of much of a chance for coming into the space.
Yeah.
So the fact that Halo, it's a great entry.
Treated them like the Twilight guy in Batman. Ended up being pretty well.
Yeah, I'll give you kudos for that. Halo was one of the 3 games that I was going to pick for that. As you said, it kind of propelled Xbox into already being a big player in the big 3 when it first launched, which is very hard for new companies to do. But I think the greatest launch title of all time is Super Mario 64.
I thought about doing that one.
A fantastic, let me repeat, 3D platformer. Now, going from 2D to 3D is so hard in the video game industry back in the day because you had so many companies. You had the Sonics of the world, you had the Castlevanias, you had the Mega Man that died pretty much when they went from 2D to 3D. And what did Nintendo do? They launched one of the greatest games of all time in Super Mario 64. They made a big, epic 120-star game where players felt like they were exploring this grand world all in 3D, all for the first time, because they were the innovators of that 3D playground, especially for platformers. No one had really done it like them. So to put a game out at the beginning of your console life cycle that was so imaginative, so much fun, so much to do, it's got to be the greatest intro game ever. And it's propelled them forward throughout the years because they keep continuing to make these really good 3D games. Like I said, when these other companies launched, they kind of flattened. So Super Mario 64 is the best launch title of all time. It's not even close, especially for what it did and how it performed when everything on it screams failure in terms of going from 2D to 3D.
Very great selection. I'm going to give you 3 points for that as well, Corey. I mean, definitely the fact that you mentioned, hey, this was like really the first game to do 3D right when the industry was moving in that direction. And obviously, it just helped further propel the legacy of the Mario franchise, you know?
Yeah, and it got a remake or a remaster on the Nintendo DS. It got a remaster for the Switch. It's still a very beloved game. I don't think it's held up super incredibly well, but it's held up well enough for people to still go back and enjoy it. And that's something to kind of be proud of.
It is. It is.
I agree.
Yeah.
But, let's go back a few levels and just remember how much praise you gave the original Halo, how much amazing the story was, the gameplay, and you said it was replayable. And there wasn't many first-person shooters out at that time. So it might not have been as big of a jump as going from 2D to 3D, but it was still a jump to choose that genre of gaming to be your launch title for a brand new product.
That's very true. At the same time, I feel like the pressure was a little bit different for Xbox. If Halo falls at that moment, maybe the Xbox brand doesn't get off as well, but it's still going to pump out games. It's still going to get, exclusive from other companies that, they did end up getting anyways. Mario is Nintendo. So if Mario were to fail on that N64 front, I think it would have been a big hit for Nintendo overall. Halo was unknown. If it fails, it's just a forgotten game that no one's ever heard of. It did succeed, and it succeeded hugely. It's such an immensely important game for Xbox and the industry. And it's a really, really good pick. I'm just saying it didn't really have the pressure that Mario 64 had.
I would say, you know what? Based upon that argument, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give a point to David. I slightly disagree with that. Based on the fact that if Xbox is launching, they put all this investment into this console. They're new. You're saying that if Halo flops, they're going to still pump out games. Well, if Mario flops, Nintendo's going to still pump out games. And at that point, Nintendo had way more brand recognition with other IPs in their arsenal. Microsoft just had Halo, and it barely even had that, right? Halo had to hit, or there's probably no Microsoft Xbox. So I think in that advantage, I'm going to give David a point there.
I mean, that's fair, but you say Xbox had Halo, but if Halo were not to do good, we would never think about Halo. Nintendo had to do Mario like this because of how important Mario was throughout the years, with the original Super Mario Bros. Also being a launch title, Super Mario World. Mario is their marquee. They had to hit it out of the park, and they did. If Halo failed, we wouldn't have remembered Halo, and they would have hopefully found something else to fill that void. It did jumpstart them by many, many, many miles, but if it failed, it would have just been something we look back at. If it failed, we would have been like, man, Xbox really missed out on Halo. That should have been a big thing. We would just not remember them. So the pressure was not there. They did need it because it helped them, but Mario is such a big name that it was very important. If that Mario fails, maybe we look at Mario now as sort of like how we see Sonic. They're pumping out games. The games are kind of mid-tier. It's a little bit of a joke, but no, it kept the prestige of the Mario franchise.
I agree. It was an amazing launch, but also as Jeremy said, there's other IPs like Ocarina of Time. If that came out instead of Mario 64, I think it would have done just as well, if not better.
Because it was one of the greatest games of all time.
I agree. And that's definitely what I would have chose if that was a launch title.
It wasn't.
I know.
So it's irrelevant to this conversation.
You're trying to dismiss my argument.
I don't understand the argument.
No, I see, because
Nintendo had
Xbox's
a variety
other IP
of choices.
Fusion Frenzy. It didn't have a Legend of Zelda. It had Fusion Frenzy. Oh, and maybe Brute Force. I can't remember that was whatever. It had those. There wasn't a lot. Great. I see what he's saying. I am going to give Corey a point for that, but I do see what David's saying. With in regards to that. So I'm also going to give David another point.
enough overall. Okay.
So let's see here. We're done with launch titles. We're talking Xbox. Let's move to the next one. I mean, you guys are starting out coming out here on fire. Next topic. Can Xbox ever recapture the 360 days? Now, we talked about original OP Xbox. That was the rising of a brand. The 360 was the, I guess, solidifying that brand as, hey, we're gaming, we're here to stay. A lot of people argued that they won that generation, even though I think in the end, Sony ended up outselling them, but not by much. Right now, I think the latest thing was Sony has sold 30 million PlayStation 5s to Xbox combined like 18.5. So it's very clear that Xbox from a sales standpoint is going to lose this generation as well. So can Xbox ever recapture the 360 days? David, you went first. I guess Corey, you'll go first this one.
Okay. No, they can never, nor are they really trying that hard to get back to that point. Xbox has a totally different mindset than they did back then. Back then, they jumped on PlayStation's arrogance. They were arrogant with the price point. They undercut them quite a bit, and they brought in all these really fun games. Call of Duty was really hot on there. Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls was really hot on there, and they were kind of innovative with kind of the games that they were bringing that PlayStation wasn't getting. And they did really good with that. They sold more than PlayStation because of it. They also had the Xbox Live, which was novel at the time. PlayStation had nothing like that. So everyone that wanted to play online games were jumping on Xbox, and it was preferred console. PlayStation was expensive. The games did not run as well. And like I said, that was total arrogance. And that was also where Nintendo kind of said, we're going to do our own side thing here. So we're not even really part of this. So it was a two-man race, which it still kind of is today. But like I said, Xbox is not trying to do that anymore. They're trying to get Game Pass into as many homes and places as it can be. I don't think they care about console sales as much as Sony does. They want to be in as many accounts as they can, which is smarter anyways, because instead of getting a $400 lump sum at the beginning, they're getting you for 4 years on a Game Pass account, and they're making a lot more money, and you're getting in their ecosystem. So will they be back to the Xbox 360 days in the terms of sales and actually leading a generation? No, but that's fine to them. They want to get Game Pass sales.
You know what? I'm going to give you three points for that. A lot of great points, especially the idea that, hey, they won't go back to that because they're not trying to go back to that. Yeah, their strategy seems to be software focused. David, what about you?
So I'm just gonna add on to that because he's right. That's what I was gonna say. The mindset has gone from we need to captivate and take ahead and control this market to we need to just kind of milk this market. They're not being innovative in the way that they used to be. They're not coming up with. I'm essentially saying the same thing, so never mind. But yeah, they released the Game Pass, and all they had was the online. No one else had online. But you know what? Everyone has online now. Even Nintendo does, no matter how crappy it is. And as Corey said, they're just trying to shuffle out Game Passes, make it, cheaper, even though it's more in the long run. And they're not coming out with these amazing games anymore. Gears 1 and Gears 2 tops any of the other Gears. Halo 3 and 2 and 1 tops the rest of the ones that have came out. If you think Xbox games, we're usually thinking of the old Xbox games. No matter if it's Microsoft making them or their businesses that they've bought and they're making it solely for Xbox, it's not what it used to be. Now they're content with what they have and just trying to squeeze out a little bit more. They're not like, hey, we need to stand up and show them we have all this amazing stories and games that we can come up with. It's not there. That's why they're buying, Bethesda and hoping they can do something and just making it solely Xbox.
Yeah.
I want to give. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. Award them.
Yeah. David, I'm gonna give you 2 points for that. You kind of mentioned the idea of, hey, they're not producing, before it was all Microsoft Game Studio this, Microsoft Game Studio that. You'd see when you fire up a game, that's happening a lot less. Studios within them don't have that prowess anymore. That's why they're acquiring developers that seem to have that prowess. That's why they're in the middle of a Activision Blizzard acquisition, right? That may or may not happen, but seems to be happening.
I can give you a specific example on how I know that Xbox does not care about winning the console race in terms of sales. They have already stated they will release Call of Duty on every system. They've already released Minecraft and haven't taken it away from any other system. Those two games alone are system sellers. They will get people to buy your product. So for them to say, hey, we're still going to keep it on every other console, that tells me that they're not worried about selling their own console as much as they are getting their name out there and their brand out there and saying, hey, you can play our games. We don't mind that on any console, but you still want you over here. It's best over here. But if they wanted to sell consoles and be the leader, you make Call of Duty exclusive, you make Minecraft exclusive, you make Diablo, Overwatch, you make all these companies that they own or are going to own, you make them exclusive, and then you become the leader in the console sales. They're not doing that because they have different goals.
Okay. I mean, how would that work in regards to the Game Pass aspect of it, right? Because let's say you can play Minecraft on these other consoles. I mean, you just played as are they just essentially a software developer? That seems kind of like Sega-ish, I guess, in some aspects, where they're gradually, evaporating their hardware focus in order to just be software focused.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a circumstance of, hey, we'll always have a box that you can buy and play our games, but you really don't have to buy our box. In 15 years, they might have a small little plugin that plugs into the TV that's Game Pass focused, and it's got all our games on there. But they want to provide you a chance to buy their box, but they don't really care if you do because their stuff's everywhere.
So this may deflect both of our arguments, but the capturing what 360 was it the sales and having the 360 that really made the 360 the 360, or was it everything that was coming out for the 360? Because we're talking a lot about the sales and stuff right now.
Right.
That's a good question. As a 360 fan myself, I thought a lot of it was game focused. Like I had mentioned, Oblivion came out on there, and it wasn't on PlayStation 3 at the time, and I loved it. I bought it. Call of Duty 2 was that a launch title for the 360? That was huge. People love that game. Something like Bayonetta, which I'm a huge fan of, came out first on 360, and it was much better than PS3. Something like BioShock came out first on that. The Mass Effect series. Are we going to get that on future Xbox titles? No. Besides the companies they own, no other third-party company is going to be like, hey, we're doing first on Xbox. I don't know what they did back in the 360 days to kind of propel themselves to be that console of choice, but they were. And it's not going to happen like that again unless Sony kind of screws up.
Okay.
Valid arguments from everyone around here. Topic number 3. There's talk. The Super Mario movie with Chris Pratt is coming out. We on here before have talked about the exceptional Sonic franchise, as well as everyone's favorite Detective Pikachu. So, but we've also talked about the terrible video game movies that have come out. So my thought is that, recently I've been getting into The Last of Us. I'm almost halfway through. I just got through the episode Survive and Endure, which covers my favorite chapter in The Last of Us. They did an exceptional job in it. I loved it so much.
Didn't they? It's so good.
So good. What video game movie adaptation? So think about all the video game movies that have been made. Which one deserves a remake? Which one deserves someone talented like a Craig Mazin or Alfonso Cuarón to come on and create a very good, very compelling video game movie adaptation? David, you start with this one.
I'm going to start with you are saying remake. So are we saying stuff that's already been made that just
already been made?
Erase it. Okay.
Think of like a Dead or Alive. Remake it. What's happening?
So this is probably typical of me, and I do love the old ones, but it's Resident Evil.
Oh, come on. How many times are they going to remake this?
I know.
They just remade it.
But they keep doing it wrong. And I don't know why. Okay? Like, yeah, personally, I loved the old ones, as I said, but more than most of the fandom of Resident Evil are not happy with any of these live action Resident Evil movies. The CGI ones, they do well for, what they are. They stay true to the story and their canon and, what have you. But these live action ones just don't cut it to most of the fans. The latest one, they try to mix 1 and 2 together, and they should have mixed 2 and 3 together, or do one separately. And they keep skipping Resident Evil 0, which is the day before Resident Evil.
As you should.
Okay, and I don't know what their problem is. If you're gonna make a series or movies or whatever have you, The Last of Us really just shows what you can do with an already written script.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll go ahead, Jeremy.
Here's what I'll do, David. I'm going to give you 2 points. One for the sass towards Corey, and the other towards the idea of, hey, can we Last of Us this a little?
Yeah, it's written.
I gotta step in.
All right, first of all, is already there.
How many remakes do you want, David? They've made 7 original movies. They remade it as a Netflix series. They remade the movies where they combined 1 and 2. You know why it's not doing as good as The Last of Us? Because Resident Evil is camp. It's not a good story. They don't have much to go on. They have. It's not Last of Us.
There is so much to that story,
and most of it's not good.
They cut most of it and try to mesh stuff that doesn't need to be meshed.
The best game, Resident Evil 4, is as campy as anything out on the market. Anything. It's so campy. It's just it doesn't have the power to be The Last of Us. I will tell you which movie should be remade, and not because it should be like a super masterpiece. It's just it was a fantastic movie back in the day, and it deserves to be remade. That is Street Fighter, the video game, the movie. Like, have you guys seen Street Fighter?
No.
Yeah, I've seen Street Fighter.
Jean-Claude Van Damme playing Guile, the American hero, with a thick accent. You had Raul Julia, who was playing Adams, the Adam family dad, as M. Bison. Was perfect casting. They were so good. And if you could bring that into the present with just as much camp and fun, like that's a great title. Street Fighter has so many characters, and just like fighting games, every character has their own kind of pronounced side mission or story that they want to achieve. So you have a plethora of playable characters and characters on the market that you could take any of them and make their story into a good movie. Like I said, they did Guile and they did M. Bison. It was a great movie in the 90s. It would be a fantastic movie right now if they remade it.
So here's what I'm going to do for you, Corey. I'm going to give you 2 points for that. Neither of you picked any options that I really like. So I'm going to need you guys to kind of sell me on your movies a little bit more.
I mean, I can give you my second pick as well.
You got to sell me on Street Fighter.
I really want to give you my second pick too, though. Like, it's such a good pick. I thought David
why don't you pick a second one so that can help you, just like Halo 1 and 2.
I mean, what else do you want me to sell you on? Jeremy, you saw the original Street Fighter. Jean-Claude Van Damme was amazing in it. Raul Julia was amazing. It was his last movie, actually, and he kind of just did it, and he performed really well. It's a good movie.
What's going to bring people in to see that movie? Besides that, it's
Resident Evil. Resident Evil's had 7 chances. They've had chances.
They took one story and just went with it when they shouldn't have.
10 times. What do you want them to do? They can't get it right. Nobody of any merit wants to take it on because it's not a good story. They're not known for their stories. Because they want to keep
putting their own twists on it. It's literally.
That's what directors do. Directors do. Alfonso is not going to just be like, I'm adapting this game from the 1990s because it's perfectly well written already. It's not. It's horrible. It's horrible. He's not going to take a game like that and rewrite it exactly how it is because it's a terrible written game. You can't deny that.
Okay,
so you called Resident Evil campy, and then as you were.
But you want them to make it like The Last of Us. That's what you pointed out. You said, follow the script. I want my movie to be campy. I want it to be out there. I want 16 main characters all going for a death battle. I want them to do what they kind of did with the new Mortal
So
Kombat.
campy is bad for me, but good for you.
When you're comparing it to Last of Us,
Resident
Evil's never gonna. They've already made campy Resident Evils. They stink.
That's why there's been more than one.
Okay, let's tame this kerfuffle. David, give me your last, let's say, 20-second pitch on remaking Resident Evil. And let's pick maybe a specific one in the pantheon or in the canon that you would specifically want to be a remake.
That's okay. Like I would want the Nemesis one to be done correctly.
Okay.
They added, Alice was in there obviously, and then half of that stuff wasn't even in the game. Did you get any of you guys played Resident Evil 3 Remake?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a good movie right there. We don't need to add stuff, take away stuff. Even the remake already took away some stuff. If you just follow the original script, that'd be amazing. And to have the story follow and like have a Resident Evil 8 movie, do you know how amazing that would be? That was an amazing game, and you can not disagree with me, Corey.
I mean, to get to Resident Evil 8, the movie, you kind of have to do 1 through 7, and those first ones aren't very good. So in terms of story, they're not.
They're great story. Then why is there 8 of them?
And you like them? You just argued that the whole the games. I'm talking about the movies.
Yeah, the games.
The games are fantastic. Yeah, the stories aren't that great, and that's okay. They're not meant to be great stories. Yeah, so anyways, Street Fighter the movie, based off the game, you have Danny DeVito as Blanca, you have William Shatner as M. Bison, and you have Bad Bunny as Guile. I think that's all you need to start off. Beginnings of a great movie.
Okay.
Danny DeVito as Blanca is brilliant.
So I'll give you. I want to give you a point, Corey, because you gave me a movie. Danny DeVito. I don't. No, thank you.
As Blanca.
And David, I'm going to give you a point because you did kind of point out that the movies aren't utilizing the full storyline of the games, and that maybe if they're going to remake that and utilize a bit more, especially with dealing with Nemesis, that can make for a more compelling.
What movie were you remaking exactly? The whole series, 1 through 45.
Yes.
Oh. I'm the one that picks more than one. He picked 12 movies. Okay.
He went down to 3. He specified 3, and then
3 still more than 1. Was there a Resident Evil 3 movie? Was that based off Nemesis?
The second movie was based off Nemesis, which is
Resident Evil 2.
Resident Evil 3.
Based on Resident Evil 3.
Was put into
a Resident Evil movie. It's the third game. It's the second movie based off of the third game. I'm taking a point away.
It is a mess.
Nuke it.
It's a mess.
Nuke it like they nuked Raccoon City.
They're doing it terribly.
It's over.
All righty. We're moving on.
Oh my God.
Topic number 4. Are live service games a positive or negative for gaming? Who wants to take this first? I have to recover from the movie.
I think I'll take it first. All right.
Okay.
I'm really feeling myself. I have a lot of venom in me. I think you took a point away from me, which was unfounded.
Because you kept contesting. Well, one I did the other time, but you're contesting what the second movie and the third game. We understand that the second movie was based off of the third game. That's clearly, whether it makes sense from a numerical standpoint, that's not what we're discussing. We're just discussing that he brought up, you asked him to cite the movie that cites the game. He named the movie that cites the game. It's bingo bongo done.
Okay. Let's start off the entire Resident Evil franchise about the third game. Good. All right, got it. Perfect. Live service games, are they good or are they bad for the industry? They are bad for the industry. Now, some games can take live service games and make them profitable and make them good, but for the most part, they're not good, especially for gaming as a whole. Now, we look at live service games. For people who don't know, live service games are pretty much when a developer says we are making this game and we are going to continue working on this game for a good number of years, and we're not going to be really working on a sequel. I got that definition right, Jeremy?
Right.
Okay, so yeah, you see some games like Fortnite, some of the battle royals that do really well with that kind of service, and they provide a lot of gameplay, they provide a lot of updates, and it works out okay. And those games specifically are pretty decent as live service, and you're happy with them. But let me just name off a few developers for you. BioWare, Crystal Dynamics, Rocksteady, Bethesda. 4 very, very talented developers. All of them have made amazing games. And what have they put out? BioWare put out Anthem. Crystal Dynamics put out Avengers, the game. Rocksteady is putting out Suicide Squad, which had such a bad showing at the last PlayStation showing that they're thinking about playing in the 2024. And Bethesda put out Fallout 76, the lowest rated RPG that they've made in years. So you have 4 great developers, which have all made probably almost game of the year type games beforehand, move on to live service games and totally bungle it. They are not very good games. No one enjoys them to the level that they had hoped. You know, Anthem was supposed to be a 10-year pipeline. We're going to be doing this game for 10 years. And they didn't release a great game to start, and people fell off of it. So those people that paid $60, because it wasn't a free game, it was a $60 game. People that paid that money were expecting, okay, we're going to have a long-term investment. They're going to update it with new missions, new things. And it didn't. They closed it down because that's what happens to live service games that don't immediately shoot off. They get closed down. If you're not blowing up numbers on the charts and hitting all these milestones, you're going to get shut down. And that happens to a lot of them. And even the ones that survive, something like The Division, isn't looked at extremely fondly. It's okay, but a lot of people had other games that they maybe wanted them to work on. So no, live service games for the most part aren't good for the gaming industry.
I'm going to give you 3 points for that. That was a fantastic argument. Tons of points. Citing exactly all these different Bethesda, BioWare. These are talented,
all-time greats developers.
And I mean, I think BioWare was on the brink of almost closing based upon how bad Anthem did at one point. You know, they thought it was going to go the way of some other ones. Yeah, Crystal Dynamics being able to resurrect the Tomb Raider franchise and he could poop that out. David, what are your thoughts?
Obviously, I'm going to say they are pretty good for the industry. As
Ooh,
all I play is Apex, mostly some Overwatch,
Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight. These games I play are just like online games. Now, you did bring up a great point of all these developers that make these amazing games try to do these live service games and they just crap on themselves. But that isn't too relevant when you have companies that, sorry, I don't know names, but I do know one, Respawn, made Titanfall. This is an amazing series. They left it to die, which is unfortunate and the side effects of live service. But that was an amazing series, 1 and 2, and now they have the Apex one, and that's been going on for 4 years already. What I think the main issue is with live service games is the community is way too toxic and ask for way too much. They have like Apex, for example, they have these events like every other month. You know, every 3 months there's a new character or a new gun or a new map. They're not content with this change and that change. They are requesting too much from these companies.
So is your argument that you are for live service, or are you just arguing both sides?
I'm arguing that live service is good, but it's the community that's asking too much, and they're too toxic about it.
That's interesting. So here's what,
like Destiny 1 and 2. Yeah, Destiny 2 is still going on, and that is not, in my point of view, but an amazing game for tons of people. And they're still adding to that. And that's not even a battle royale to help my argument.
So here's
let me ask you both a question.
Hold on, David. I'm going to give you 2 points.
Okay.
One for taking what I think is a very unpopular position, And two is that I did have to think about that Respawn, because as we just said, all these other companies kind of basically tank their stock because of a live service. Respawn almost kind of saved itself with the live service game with Apex, because the Titanfall IP was pretty much going to be dead in the water after 2, because EA or whoever did such a horrible job planning the release of it. So that is an opposite side that perhaps, and like other games you mentioned, that perhaps these smaller companies or maybe companies that had missteps could possibly sustain themselves with a live service, which I think that's an interesting angle to have. So I'll give you 2 points for that. Now, Corey, you go ahead. What was your going to say?
I have another point off to that one. David, you specifically said that Respawn killed Titanfall 2 to make Apex. So to kill off a franchise that is beloved, I know they probably had to do it. That's tough. That's like we're not going to see Titanfall again because of this, because they're slowly working on Apex. And that's a tough pill to swallow. When most companies have been, hey, yes, we'll make a different game, but we might come back to this game eventually. It seems like Titanfall is kind of dead in the water.
Yes, but I think that is an EA issue.
And the question was, is it good for gaming? Overall, yes, it was great for Respawn 100%. It probably did save them, but for gaming, it's probably killed a few companies. It's hurt some other companies. Jeremy, as you said with BioWare, they were kind of on the brink of shutting down, we'll just merge BioWare into some of our other companies. So for the gaming question, of course it helps a huge company. So Epic has become a huge powerhouse because of Fortnite. But for gaming overall, I don't think it has been successful. And let me ask you a question. So David, let's just say your favorite developer is like Capcom, right? Let's just say it, Resident Evil games. Jeremy, do you have a favorite developer?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with Bethesda then.
Okay, so if the news came out today, hey, Capcom is making a live service game. Hey, Bethesda's making a live service game. You do not get a giddy sort of feeling. You don't get, yes, oh my God, I can't wait. What's it going to be? That word has a negative emotion tied to it. If you hear those words, you're like, dang, that sucks. So to me, that just kind of points to the fact that live service is not a good thing for the gaming community.
Okay, so we're solely talking about company-wise and profits and killing companies. But let's look at the community in a good light instead of a bad light, as I was saying earlier. The biggest games that are watched on Twitch and YouTube and stuff like that are these games. Like the most watched is like CSGO and Valorant and Apex and COD, all these live service games. People love a good story, and people will watch people speed run Resident Evils and stuff like that. Or if somebody follows somebody for a while and they play a new game, they'll watch it, sure. But if you look at all the viewings, it's mostly competitive live service gaming.
Yeah, for those top 3 or 4. But as I had mentioned, for the gamers, is it good for the gamers? Like when we look at something like the Avengers game, I don't know how long they said the lifespan was going to be, but I'm guessing it was more than 2 years that they said. So when they promise something and people buy battle passes for individual characters on top of paying $60 for a game, and there's Spider-Man's exclusive to PlayStation, and then they end up shutting all that down anyways after a couple of years, is that good for gamers? Was Anthem good for gamers? There's a lot of, and there's a lot of other live service games that have shut down. We've talked about all the battle royals that just kind of go to the wayside. Guess what? They still charge money for battle passes and other stuff that doesn't pan out because after a year or two, that stuff is not even worthless. It doesn't even exist anymore. Fortnite, Call of Duty, Apex, yes, those are the cream of the crop. And when you buy something from their stores or their battle passes, you know that you're getting that value and it'll be able to be used in a couple of years. But a lot of these things, no. Whatever money you put into these games is going to be just toast after a couple of years.
Yeah, that is true. Most people, they do look for some kind of profitability later on. Some people, like you said, we know going in, all the money I've spent on Apex and whatever, it's going to be gone when it's gone. But I've put 2,500 hours into that game.
And that's one example of a very popular game. And there's probably 4 or 5 other very popular games where the money's worth it, but there's probably dozens of games where it's not.
I spent some money, not a lot of money, on the Titanfall mobile game. That was only up for a year. I enjoyed it. I liked the time I spent into it. It sucked when I heard about it. Like, okay, well, I expected this to be longer, but I loved the time I put into it, and it was a good game. Just not enough players. And that's the unfortunate side of live service games, is if they don't have the player base, they don't have anything. But a single player game, story game, stuff like that, they just have to sell it. They don't have to worry about anything. As long as they get a sale, they're good. Most live service games, they're just free. So that's why they just rely on these battle passes and skin purchases and all these microtransactions.
And they're free because they need the player count, or else they're really not worth much in terms of investors or the company's CEO. So that's why they're free, because they need to be to get the player count.
Right. Well, here's what I'll say. I'm giving you both had some good points. I'm giving you both 2 points on that back end for those arguments, leading us into the last topic, which makes it extremely difficult for me, because I don't know if should I tell you guys your point totals right now? I don't know if I should.
Am I down by one? Am I tied? I think I'm tied or down by one.
Keep it a secret. I guess I'll keep it a secret.
I feel like the best thing to do was to give up so many points that by the last topic you don't know who's winning, so you just kind of like. I know. That was my mindset going into it last time. Like, I'm giving out points, and now I don't know who's winning, so I can't feel bad. Like,
right. All righty. Well, last topic.
What's the mystery question?
Mystery question. I'm going to give you guys about 10 seconds to think this through, because this is a big old question, and I did not give you guys any idea of what might be asked.
10 seconds. I thought you were going to give us like a minute.
One for the
nope. 10 seconds. So, mystery question number 5. What video game protagonist has the best character / story arc in gaming? I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think of that. Dig deep into the recesses of your mind.
You're talking about throughout an entire series?
Could be series.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely Mario.
Okay.
No, it's Kratos. It's Kratos. This one's very easy for me. When we see Kratos in the original God of War, he is an angry man. He gets tricked by the gods, and he kills his family in the original one, and all he is anger. He murders everything around him. He murders innocent people. He has sex with whoever he wants, whenever he wants. It's very illegal stuff. And he never finds that freedom that he's hoping for, that release. He is just so much built on anger. He's so much built on anger that when they kind of stopped making God of War games, they thought, we're not going to bring Kratos back. He's not a character that anyone relates to or anyone wants to relate to, because he's only fueled by this anger. And they took a risk. No matter what people think now, when they were making the new God of War, bringing Kratos back was a risk because of his characterization. And what they do in 2018, they made him a father, they made him a husband who actually cared about his family. But they didn't do a complete 180 where he's like, come on, son, jump on my back. We're going to, go hunt. Or I love my wife. They still made him very stoic because they took what they had from those original 6 games, maybe including the PSP games. They took what they had from those original games and they kept it in his character at the core. But he grew old, he grew wiser, and he learned kind of how to raise his son. And that's what the arc of the 2018 and what God of War Ragnarok is all about, because he is super stoic. He still has that anger kind of deep down inside of him, but he does not want his son to have that anger. So he does his best to be a father and just kind of teach Atreus the ways, not to make the mistakes I have, because Atreus, when he's going through the game, he's growing up. He found out he's a god. So he's also kind of getting like, I can do whatever I want. I'm a god. And Kratos really has to rein that in. And if you played those 2 games, 2018 and Ragnarok, it is a fantastic story, especially on Kratos' part. And you don't even have to really play the original games to kind of know. Kratos is such a popular character that you kind of get what his vibe was before, because I only played one of the PSP games about God of War before I played this one. So
I'm going to give you 3 points. That was an exceptional choice.
Thank you.
Kratos is an exceptional choice for character arc. I couldn't agree more with everything you just said.
Thank you.
David, tough.
It's been over 10 seconds.
Okay, so you guys aren't gonna like this one.
Leon S. Kennedy.
No.
Okay.
So I'm taking a limb on this one, and I probably can't say it is the greatest. I don't play a lot of story games. I know a select few, but I do know that this one was hard for a lot of people to take in, and I'm gonna say it's Abby from The Last of Us 2.
I am interested in this one. You have my interest.
Okay, so as we know, we follow Joel and Ellie, right? And what Joel did for Ellie.
Oh, real quick. Possible
spoilers.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, it's been out a couple years. I forgot.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Ellie was gonna go on to the operation. Joel, saved her, killed the doctor, killed everyone, killed Marlene, who even put him on the mission. So now we have Abby coming out from the woodworks in number 2, and we think she's this horrible, horrible person because took out Joel, did it in front of Ellie, did all this horrible stuff. What she's doing is just that was her dad, the doctor.
Right.
She's getting revenge on that. And Ellie didn't even die, and Joel was up shooting people. So I don't see it being out of character for her to come in and do this to him. The torture, nothing about it. Manipulating him, thinking she needed help and stuff like this, bringing him back to her place or whatever. And then, you play as her, you see what she's going through, who she knows. And then you see the fights between her and Ellie. That's a 40, 50-hour game. I played it once. I can't remember everything off the top of my head, but that was a great character. It was a great story. It showed that you can't necessarily be biased and not have good character judgment. We hate Abby because we loved Joel. Well, you know what? Abby loved her dad and hated Joel.
You know what?
Here's
what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Here's what I'm going to do. Abby works on double-sided, not only having her arc, but the arc it therefore pushes you as a player and the emotions you feel for protagonists you used to play. It works so good on so many levels. So here's what I have to do, okay? Okay, everyone, ladies, gentlemen, chickens, ducks, and hens, this wasn't planned, but we're calling an audible. So here's what happened, right? I'm just going to let you guys know what's going on, right? Going into question 5. Now, David, I'm also giving you 3 points for that. Going in to question 5, you both were tied, okay? You both scored 3, which means you're tied again. That means we got to have a deathmatch question, all right?
Okay.
This question, very simple. I'm going to give you another 10 seconds to think about it. All right.
I'll answer this time. So
okay.
All right, yeah.
Okay. Take it. Who is the dumbest video game protagonist in gaming? I'll give you 10 seconds.
The dumbest.
Think about it. Think about someone that you were controlling in the video game that was a straight numbnuts. Just give it some seconds and think about it. You're at 17 all, and we've got to break this tie.
Right? I'm gonna go with Calypso from Twisted Metal.
Okay.
So I forget which one it is, but you play as him. He's like a semi-truck. Why is it you controlled this game for all these years, and now you have to fight in your own because I think someone else took over? Like, you had all this power. If you've seen any of the endings of any character in any game, you can see what he's capable of. Why participate in your own stupid little game? Just do what you want.
True.
I don't have a lot. That's my argument. That's it.
But, all right.
That's what
I thought of a good one. I'm glad I went second on this one. You are the dumbest mother effer in the entire world. And I'm talking about you from Animal Crossing, your own player character. You move to an island that is supposed to be carefree and I can do what I want, only to get sucked into extreme debt the moment you get to the island. You're under extreme debt by Tom Nook, and he makes you work it off by paying the local currency bells. So you've gone to this fantastic island where you can relax to now having to do chores for every animal on the island, about 10 of them, and having to cut down trees and catch bugs and fish. And it's not suggested that you pay the debt off. You have to pay the debt off. And then you work so hard to pay the debt off. And then he upgrades your house. And it's astronomical more how much more you owe after that. It like doubles and triples and quadruples. And then eventually you're paying like 1,000,000 bells. You've got to get into the turnip market just to be able to afford it. You might have to use cheat codes to go back and forward in time. You have to manipulate the seasons to be able to afford this debt. So you move to this island to get away from everything, only to have to grind harder than you've ever had to grind. In the latest Animal Crossing, they make you terraform the world. How hard is it to terraform a world? That's used by machinery. You can't do that as a human. So you're terraforming hills and dips and building bridges. Like it's too much. You're a moron if you move to the Animal Crossing world, because it's forced labor. It's horrible.
I like that.
Thanks.
All righty. Good points made by all. Tallying it up here. 1918.
Wow.
1918. An unfortunate selection by me.
Yeah, baby.
I have to go with Corey.
Yeah. Woo-hoo.
Just had just a little bit more on the end.
No, that last question answer was phenomenal.
Thanks. That was a super tough battle. You had great answers, man.
Thank you.
Like I said, every time you said one, I'm like, yeah, I can 100% see that. I could have easily picked that myself. So
yeah,
I've been living and dying on these last questions. Beat Jeremy with the last question.
That was a tough one. It required 6 questions. It required 6.
3-0-3, baby.
Yeah, but it's let's see.
Jeremy does not seem happy. He does not seem happy.
Close.
He's checking his numbers to see if he made a mistake.
No.
Can the title of this level be "Jeremy makes a grave mistake" this time?
You know what? It will be something of that instance. Yes, it will be that. But yeah, that was great. Well done, guys. That was great. I mean, and the way you guys were a video game movie adaptation topic. I mean, you guys were getting pretty sassy.
I got fiery.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
I didn't hate the pick. They just had their chances, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I do like the idea of a much more kind of realistic, heavy, like RE3 remake, kind of utilizing Nemesis, especially it might be current bias because I watched Endure and Survive or Survive and Endure, and they had the big infected come out of the hole with all the other ones when they come and get the lady. Spoilers. Yeah, so I would love to see that, especially crashing through walls and different things like that. It would be dope.
My other pick, I thought you might pick this one, David. I was going to say Silent Hill, because horror is such like a prestige genre in movie making right now that a psychological horror like Silent Hill, which hasn't had like, the 5 or 6 movies that Resident Evil had, would probably go really well now. And you could see like a prestige director kind of taking that, that town and that kind of, everything about it.
The problem is I didn't play those games and I love those movies.
Fair.
That's why
I think the first one's actually pretty decent. I remember watching it being kind of cool.
But I did think like the Street Fighter movie, if they redid it now, if they did it like how they did Mortal Kombat, I think those are great films as well.
Yeah.
I can see that being a good movie.
Look at this, all love here now. Okay, Jerry.
I can't see those being good. I was hoping that someone would maybe say a Max Payne or Doom, possibly.
Really?
Wait, there was a Doom movie?
Yeah,
With The Rock.
The Rock. Yeah.
Oh wow! See, I just saw the Max Payne banner on my TV when I turned it on, but I never watched it, so I didn't know if it was bad or not.
Or even possibly a Blood Rain. That was directed by Uwe Boll, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, even something like that. But hey, it was good. That brings us to the end of this podcast level. So how we end usually every level is final thoughts, where each of us have a final thought that we want to make about anything related or unrelated to the podcast. Corey, since you're the victor of this one, I'll let you give your final thought first.
All right, just like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf on Wall Street, I'm not going anywhere. I ain't leaving. I ain't going anywhere. 3-0. Let's go.
We do not condone the act of throwing a little person at a target, much like I'm sure Corey will do after he gets done with this recording, because that's also what Leonardo DiCaprio did in The Wolf of Wall Street. And I'm assuming instead of a little person, it will just be his child. We do not condone.
Yes, it's bedtime.
We do not condone any of this.
Baby into the bed.
David, what is your final thought?
My final thought is enjoy life. Even the little things.
Very good. Very good.
It's
Nicely
hard
said.
sometimes.
My final thought is that I am devastated.
Again?
David was leading this thing for most of the leg. And I'm like, yes. It's yes, finally.
It's happening. The
Yes.
reckoning.
And
it turned around.
And then, you know.
And then Kratos and
I start high, I end low.
I think you were leading. I think you were beating Jeremy until the last question last time, David, on mine.
I start high and low.
So yeah, that is it for this level of Thoughts and Players. If you like what you heard, please follow and subscribe to the podcast on the podcast services. We are everywhere. So make sure you look out for that. I've had to have some conversations with some podcast platforms about us getting published a little bit late, but hopefully that gets remedied. If you want, if you'd like, you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Thoughts and Players, like it's all one word. We're also on Instagram, Thoughts.Players. We are on Twitter, ThoughtsPlayer2. We are on the TikTok, Thoughts Players, where we post shorts. Well, actually, we post shorts on YouTube. We post TikToks on TikTok. And yes, we are also on YouTube at Thoughts Players, where we post shorts and other videos. The Shadow Warrior 3 review is live up on.
Did you just post one?
Yes, on YouTube if you want to check that out, as well as everything else we have on there, clips, different stuff like that. There is a, I don't believe Forgotten, I don't know because it has some views, but David has a whole RE7 playthrough on there if you want to check that out.
I forgot I did that.
I know, right? I think you have some Among Us up there too.
That's amazing.
So,
oh my God, I loved that game. That particular, that game I recorded.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, that was a good one.
Yeah. Speaking of good ones, we mentioned it earlier. If you want to be a thinker or a player or all-around slayer, we are on Patreon. Make sure you check that out. Thoughts and Players on Patreon. We have a $2, $5, and $7 tier if you want to support us. But again, just a like, a share, a follow, a comment of, hey, you guys make sense, or hey, Jeremy, you messed up again. I will reply with, I know, and then slink back into my bed. But that is it for me. Fellas, would you like to say anything else?
Peace. Nope, goodbye.
All right, that's it. We'll see you on the next level.